By that fallen house, the pear tree stands, full blooming, an ancient battle site. Shiggy. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Thought Process. We're back at it again, another week. I'm here with Greg. What's up, Greg? How's it going?
I'm doing pretty well. I have a better outlook right now.
Outlook of what?
Things are a little
On
timid.
life?
Yeah. Well, not on life. Just there's days that you're happy and sad, and today is neither.
I guess that's a win. I guess that's a win.
Then you don't have something to worry about. You're happy, but you don't need to be happy because there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happiness, and I'm just trying to exclude it from that, but
maybe
I don't have a worry in this day so far.
Okay, what's going well in your life?
I don't know. I just got an exercise bike. Maybe that's something to do with it.
Oh, you worked out today, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
I've been trying to do 10 miles on it a day, 5 times a week at least. So if I skip 2 days, whatever. Yeah, but I feel like I might just do it because I'll sit down in front of my TV and I'll watch something. And it's right in my room, so I don't have to go anywhere or put on clothes. Like, if I want to do it naked, I close my window and close my room door, and I'm good to go. Like there's no with that, to me, there's no excuse, and it's not hard to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think as you get disciplined to hop on the bike every day, I think there might be a point in time where you may want to go out. Just personally speaking, like for me, it's I mean, it would be hard for me to just get an exercise bike here, just because it's kind of like monotonous to me. I would rather go out and get the fresh air, get some sun, see some views. Just I don't know. Just I think for me it's a difference. There's a difference that you can't get inside your home as opposed to going outside and.
Sure. I don't know. I've had the I don't know. I get sunburns very easily. That's one thing, right? 2, when you go out, you're sweating differently when you're outside. I feel like when I'm inside, the sweat's not going into my eyes. I don't have a fly that flies into my eye. Like, it's much more comfortable. You're still doing exercise. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I don't have to worry about getting the sunburn.
Yeah,
like those are things that prevent me from wanting to consistently do it, and that's one of the things why I looked at doing that over a real bike, price wise, consistency wise, and I was just like, I'll probably do it way more if I just have it right here.
Yeah,
and it's the size of a vacuum, so like I can put it behind the chair right here right now if I wanted to.
I totally get it, but you mentioned comfort, and comfort's a very dangerous thing.
Yes and no. Because it's comfortable in the sense of if you're not wanting to do it, you're comfortable enough to still do it anyways. Like, if you go and you're trying to do PRs every day because you just want to be the most badass person ever, you're going to burn yourself out and stop. If there's comfort in the exercise you do, it's usually why people continue on. Like, no one likes to be in pain. Well, I mean, there are people who like that, but the majority of people don't just want to do something because they have to do it. If they can do it and not have to think about it, and just like, this is something I do. It's easy enough, but it still gives me enough benefit.
I think that there's a difference between like being comfortable and like the way you're explaining it. Working out, it's not supposed to be comfortable. You're supposed to push your body so that okay. It depends for different people who are in different levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to radically change your lifestyle and your body, the way your body looks, you don't want to just go outside and walk a mile. You want to be well, first of all, you probably want to switch your eating habits, and then you want to switch your sleeping habits. And then after that, you'll take, training will become a very serious topic or a very serious thing in your life. And training if you were going to be comfortable, I mean, it just depends what your goal is. Maybe that's what I don't understand. What is your goal in working out? Because if it's about, because we've worked out
Mhm.
plenty times before, and all those times you weren't comfortable. We were at the gym, we were like
You
going crazy.
you know I was comfortable though. I at not one point were any of the decisions that I made to do that difficult.
I think we're both using comfortable in different senses. It could be, I'm talking about comfortable, being comfortable as a physical, or being comfortable as both physical and mental. And at that time, it was, you were comfortable because you were confident in the fact that you knew how to train. So because I remember that, because I went through that.
Mhm.
But had you done that all by yourself the whole time, I don't think that, because for me, dude, for whatever reason, every time I trained, even though I had my workouts planned and I had everything planned, dialed in, I still had this feeling of, I wouldn't say insecure. It was more like almost anxious, like social anxiety. I would have that before getting to the gym, and then once I started working out, it would go away. But I always had that, and so I wouldn't say that I was comfortable at the gym. I would it just kind of became like second nature, you know. So comfort, the way you're explaining it, I feel like you're talking about like it's just easy for you to do it without having getting yourself in the way.
No, the comfort that I'm talking about is the simplicity of doing it. So there's people who enjoy to do certain things. Some people enjoy sitting down and reading a book. They can sit down and waste the whole day reading one book. Like my dad can read a book in a day.
Mm-hmm.
It would take me 3 months to read the same book. It's harder in a sense for me to read that book than it is for him because he doesn't have to think about it. He's enjoying every moment of it. There was no thought of picking that book up. For me, I have to constantly think, oh, pick that book up, pick that book up. Let's do this. Come on, another one. But when you don't have those thoughts, it makes it much easier to pick the book up because you actually want to do it. So
I
that's what
think
I'm
that's
saying
the
in the
key
comfort
point.
wise is that I don't have to think about sitting on the bike and riding it. I don't have to be like, oh, I gotta go put on sunscreen. I might get a sunburn anyways. Uh, all these other things that
Yeah,
involve that one action
right.
that, that is just too much. It's like having a gym in your house. If it's not a comfortable spot, like if you put it in your backyard, you got dust everywhere. You're gonna eventually not like it. Same thing. You don't want to get in your car to drive to the gym, be around all these people sometimes. So you're just like, I'm not gonna go this time. But when you have
Yeah,
it in a
it's
comfortable spot
easier.
and in a way you don't have to think about it, you'll do it without thinking.
It's easier to just to give up on a certain thing if you have like a bunch of obstacles. Like, oh, like, you'll think about, oh man, I forgot my protein powder, I forgot my pre-workout, I didn't bring the right shoes, I'm not prepared today, I'm just not going to go to the gym.
Yeah.
As opposed to having the gym at your home, the comfort would be, the simplicity would be to just, you don't have to worry about all that stuff, you
Yeah.
just get to it.
Yeah. So it's having it's deciding on what you're gonna do essentially. So
Hmm.
like when you look out there about working out, you want to be better than all these other people, or you want to do the same thing as all these other people, but you can't because you're not at the same level. So that creates the other part of, oh, you're
well
not gonna do this, you can't do that.
well
Oh, this person's better. Oh man, I'm never gonna get there. Just do what you can do.
but isn't it funny how we're always comparing ourselves to other people?
Yeah.
Which actually, this is a great segue into today's conversation and topic. Um,
Let me
you
say
know,
one thing before you jump into that. I was actually thinking about this morning when I was getting ready. That my roommate and I, we have conversations about politics. We're pretty similar in politics. We just disagree on how things should work. So so when we talk, we do raise our voices as we get like heated, but never in like a fighting way. We just like we want to say our point in a more heated circumstance. And I was thinking about that. I was like, well, why do we both do that? Like it's because we both don't want to be wrong and we want to show that we're right to the other person. But who
sure.
can like I'm gonna start trying to dial that back, and I'm gonna see how it goes.
So dial what back? Like
That
like the
when you start arguing with someone, or it's not even an argument, you're just talking to someone about something,
uh-huh.
and you just your voice starts going a little higher. Just you're trying to get your point across, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's where I would want to pull back.
Well, I don't think you necessarily need to. I think that you, as long as you do it in a way where you're just not being like flat out, um, like ignorant to the facts. If you are wrong, in the case when you are right, maybe it would be best just to like. There's a thing when we talk, not just you and I, but like when as people,
Mm-hmm.
when we talk and you bring up a point to somebody and you just go through the whole point, the whole art, your whole where you stand, your whole argument, and sometimes all you have to do is sit there and let the other person kind of take it all in. They may be arguing with you, but you just let them talk and let them process it, and eventually they'll kind of just give you a smirk like, oh yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
So you can do that. You can just not be so pressing. But I mean, it's just part of it. It's just part of conversation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that you have this like I think you just like to challenge things, and I think that's great. Not a lot of people think that way.
Sure, but I'm saying it just happens, and I don't think I've met anyone who can keep calm in all conversations. Like you keep calm, but you have little tells. Like right now, I'm doing hand waving, and my face is doing this because I don't have something specific to talk about, but I want this to try to take over and help the conversation. So it's that. So you raise your voice to say, "Hey, I'm right." Just talk normal. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. Doesn't matter if I'm talking like this or talking like this.
Yeah. Well, if you look at how people are talking on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and all the exclamation marks, all the
Emoji
caps,
faces.
the emojis, the all caps, even if their point is wrong, they still like when you read it, you're like, oh, this person's angry, or this person's that, this person,
Yeah.
And so, which full circle, we come back to uh, the same conversation, the same segue into today's topic, which is, Greg and I both watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a good documentary overall. And just so that people understand what it is, do you want to explain a little bit of the context?
Well, I brought it over now just so I could remember what was on the picture for the show, and it's a little square thing with a heart in it, kind of like you're liking something,
Mm-hmm.
but it has like a bear trap right there,
Yeah.
trying to trap you into doing it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But the show is just about a lot of it. I think there's about 10, 15 people that they show talk about these companies like Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, all those main apps that are out there. And these people have worked within those companies, Google, Facebook, and they would be considered like I don't know if they were programmers necessarily or just like heads of departments. And they would talk about their plan to make these companies become like better or more used.
Yeah.
So their strategies into doing that were more or less just trying to get engagement for people to come on there, but then it turned into more of something that they couldn't have planned.
Let's give people the actual, what is the social dilemma? The social dilemma is basically the argument of ethics in social media, and how social media has been used to influence people's actions. And in that context, like Greg said, there are about 10, 15 people who used to work for these big conglomerates who basically explain to you that the app was intended or had good intentions of connecting people, connecting family, friends, people that you may not see on an everyday. And then eventually, over the years, because of the pressure of marketing and the pressure of sponsorships and people who basically want to sell ads, it became something else. It became a whole different animal. And the whole and this animal is the one that we're dealing with right now, which is there's many different things. Number one, it's it's basically what we consider the, well, Greg, you know the cookies, you know the full like the full definition of cookies.
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Well, it's the cookies are basically and I think I think you would be better at explaining them than I would. I'm not like that tech
No,
savvy.
not
No.
really, actually.
Well, essentially, so now, okay. First of all, when did social media start, Greg? It started back in what, 2000,
I mean,
2007,
newspaper was
2006.
social media. But if we're talking about electrical social media, probably when the first iPhone came out.
When was that? 2006.
That was a no.
No, 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 no. The first thing was like things like Google. It became like through Gmail. Then it evolved into like MySpace. Then we have like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, right? Well, before we get into that, Greg, do you remember having, what apps our phones had back in the day when you first had it? You had this Nokia phone.
I was very behind on the phone scene because I had no one to talk to. Like I there was not much of a reason to talk to anyone on the phone for myself. I didn't get a girlfriend until like right before high school. Um, no, I think actually no, I'd say it was in high school. Uh, and so there was no girls I was talking to. The only reason I needed it was to call my mom after lacrosse practice was over so I could get picked up.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I never left my house. Like my friends would just call the house and I'd be there. Hey, yeah, let's go to see the movie Friday night this time. All right. Buy your ticket. All right, I'll see you there. And that was it.
Well, the evolution of technology, it's mind-boggling. It's crazy. I can't believe that we are at this level right now,
Mm-hmm.
where it's basically a form of telepathy, where we send texts, and back and forth, and we don't have to make a sound. You can be across the world and still be able to communicate with somebody, right? And with this whole innovation and connecting people through technology, have we've had recently a lot of studies that I've kind of went over. I don't have the sources right now. Maybe I'll put them in the description. But basically, how social media and technology as a whole have been affecting people's minds
Mm-hmm.
and their mental health. So, like what we were saying, we were talking about how we were always comparing ourselves to other people. When you go to the gym and you see someone who has been going to the gym consistently for 6 years, they're at a different level than you are, and it's always the, man, why can't I be that today? How come I can't be there at that level today? And the issue is, it takes a lot of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And social media has made it seem as like these people who post these, it's the influencers, the fit people on Instagram. They make it seem like it's at a hand's reach, right? Just because you're looking at it through a window on your phone, it makes it seem like it's almost tangible, but it's not. And you know, then they'll tell you like, oh, you just buy this protein powder, and you're gonna get results. But the problem is that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and so with that being said, like you said, Greg, about the comfort. Sometimes we're just looking on Instagram, hoping and wishing that we're gonna be at that level without it really putting in the work, right? And so overall, I think social media has done a lot of damage, and we'll get into the details um, as we move forward in the podcast. But after watching this movie, Greg, what were your first thoughts?
Uh, I think I thought differently than because I've talked to like two other people about the movie, and my thoughts were kind of a little different than theirs. I more or less was like, okay, these people have worked for four different companies. Each time they leave because they're saying the dilemma of telling the people what's going on and just using it against them.
Well, I don't think that's accurate. I think that they worked in like three different or four, whatever, however many tech companies
Sure.
until until recently they found out that maybe this was not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
It evolved into something that it's not what they intended, and now we basically the way that it seems to me is that they've lost control,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But like, if you saw it the first time and then you did it the second time and then you did it the third time, you did it a fourth time, or maybe only one of them did it one time, it it just seems that if the issue's there, you should be able to tell people in some way, which maybe making this movie is the way to tell people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've done your job. You've done your piece. You're trying to explain, hey, this is what happened. You guys still want this, but I'm not doing it anymore. And you need more of that, but people aren't willing to do that.
See, the problem with that, Greg, is you're talking about people's livelihoods.
Mm-hmm.
People went to school, they put themselves through college, university to be the top coders in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
What are you gonna do when when you have this offer from this tech company, who says, "Hey, I'm gonna hire you, and your job is to make this uh, company work better, more efficiently, and these are the quotas."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're talking about your livelihood. If you don't do that, you're not gonna get paid. You're gonna be working like what's the what's the other option? Working for yourself, creating websites. It's not gonna pay as much as Facebook would pay you to,
Sure.
create something like Messenger.
Sure. But when you okay, it's just like this. If you let's just say you're someone who makes guns. All right? And a military force comes up to you and say they're paying you. You're not necessarily giving them the guns to go out and kill people. It's not the whole mission. The mission is to have the guns for self-defense. Let's just say, hands down, that's what it's for, no matter what. But then the other group over here is doing it because they just like to murder people. Everyone knows it. They know it. That's 100%. That's what that's used for. You're gonna sell the guns to them just so you're making money, or are you gonna have the moral dilemma in the sense of, no, I'm not gonna sell you them, and sure, maybe I'm not making the money.
The thing is, Greg, if we're talking about companies, when you create a company, it's to make money. It's a business. The end goal is to make money. Sometimes you have to bend the rules. Sometimes you have to do things that you're not proud of. But because that is it's expected from you to run a company.
Sure.
There are things that to the average person it may seem immoral, but when you talk about like in the business world, you think about it more of like, okay, with the guns, the whole gun thing, that's a whole different thing. I don't know too much to kind of give an analogy, but like let's go into like big pharma with pharmaceuticals. There, it's a double-edged sword, because on one end Their goal is to make money as a company, but through that, they make some medications that are, uh, they might make you sick. They have really severe side effects, but at the same time, those types of medications are paying for the innovation that they're making in other areas. So let's say that they're working on something that's going to cure your allergies, but this medication may give you like severe side effects, and it may kill a small percentage of the population. But on the other hand, this company is making a vaccine that's going to cure a disease later down the road. So how do you go about that? Like,
That's why it's all about the intent. Like I was talking earlier to my roommate about this, about that there's a difference between speeding on the road because you're trying to get to work and speeding on the road because someone's dying in your back seat and you're trying to get to the hospital. They're equivalent in the sense of the act. They're not an equivalent in the sense of the intent.
mm-hmm.
So that's where it comes in. The action is not necessarily as important as the intent of that action.
Okay, so let's go back into into the big conglomerates.
Mhm.
Okay, like Facebook, Google, and Twitter, Snapchat. These companies have grown so fast in the past few years,
Mhm.
right? It's I think it's too fast for them to be able to handle it. Now, because it's a big company, you don't, even though the founder or the current owner, because sometimes the companies are sold,
Mhm.
they may have good intentions, like changing the world for a better way. However, I don't think that everybody in that company thinks the same way. So you may have good intentions as a founder,
Mhm.
but your team may think otherwise, because maybe your team is thinking, well, we want bigger returns. I want bigger bonus. So let's do this and let's do that in order to get that, right? So I'm not necessarily going to blame the companies for doing what they're doing. And if we want to get into what they're actually doing, um, it's really crazy to think that these companies have and are influencing us as people in ways that we would not even comprehend. Like, the average person is not even thinking about this. And it could be something within the lines of, okay, so the whole goal of these companies are to get your attention and to keep you um, engaged in the platform as long as they can, because their business model is basically the platform is free for you, quote unquote, right? What
Mhm.
you're giving up is your time and your attention. And so when you are giving up your time and your attention, they can fill it in with ads and commercials. And that's who is really paying the for the service. The service where it could be something like Facebook, where you are connecting with a family member who's across the world. There's sponsors or companies out there who are paying for that. So, if we want to talk about intent, what would be the intent there? I'm allowing you, like, you're using my company and my service to talk to a dear person on the other side of the world. But you have to look at this commercial. You have to see this ad. And not only that, you're signing away the rights to your location so that we can give you ads that are local to you,
Mhm.
that are more relevant. We're going to keep your history so that we understand what things you're interested in, and we can sell that information to these companies that are sponsoring the service.
Mhm. So with that, that's why a lot of it still comes down to self-control as well. So just because you're being advertised something doesn't mean you have to do it. Like, sure, if you keep seeing advertisements of some commercial for, let's just say, In and Out, and you keep seeing the burgers, it's gonna make you hungry. And maybe within a week, you probably like, I want to go eat something. Let's go to In and Out. But like,
So
does that necessarily hurt you? No. If you have self control, it doesn't.
okay, but how many people do you think have self-control?
That's the problem. We're not teaching people the right way.
Right. Well, it's not in their it's not in the interest of these companies to do that,
Yeah.
right? This is something that you're supposed to figure out on your own, or maybe something that you're supposed to be learning from your family, from parents. How much self-control do you have?
My self control is pretty high.
Well,
in
I mean,
in a sense.
it's
A financial wise, and self control is pretty high.
okay. What about like um well, like simple pleasures?
Like
L-
food in the
Well,
kitchen.
I wouldn't
If there was a thing made of chicken, rice, and green beans, or a chili cheeseburger, I would probably choose the chili cheeseburger. In that sense,
Mhm.
my gluttony response would be worse than my financial response.
Right, because I mean, obviously, everyone's cut off differently,
Yeah.
right? We're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their quirks, you know. Um, but and I want to get into the self control and stuff, and the willpower in a little bit. But I really want to go into detail about what other things are happening behind the scenes that we don't understand. Because especially now, the kids in today's generation, they're basically they are they're born into a world where they have social media, and where the majority of the time that they spend with friends is through social media.
Mm-hmm.
Especially right now, through the whole pandemic and the quarantine, I haven't seen kids play outside in the longest time. So for them, it's it's like it's already prominent that the way to communicate is with through social media. So as a parent, Greg, like how are you tackling that now that you understand what's going on? Like, do you want your kid to be on social media like all day, or on their phone, or like
No, I've tried to do something with my son. He does use like my phone to watch something a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's I've taught him that it's easy enough to just put it down and go and do something else. So there's some I don't know. I think he's able to. I think he's not as typical as a kid as I'm not as typical as a person my age. I'm not like people my age, and I don't think he's like people his age. So in that circumstance, talking specifically about him, I don't think he falls into the same thing as, say, my other friend's son, who, if he has any, like, let's say you were out eating somewhere and a commercial came on that had PJ Masks. That's a popular cartoon, and he saw it, he would be freaking out for the next hour for the eating, saying he wants to watch PJ Masks. He doesn't have the self control of holding back that urge for it. But like in the sense of my son, he could see it. He's like, oh, look, that character. Oh, that's cool. I want to watch that. But then it's like, okay, we'll watch it later. Okay. While the other kid is like, ah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the self control that needs to be taught over there's that thing right now that everyone is a queen, or everyone is a is the best. Like, think of yourself in a high manner. Like, sure, that's cool, but also no, you're no one. You're just like the person next to you. Like, there's no.
Well, I think that's a different it's about thinking. I think it falls along the lines of thinking positive.
But if you think that you're owed everything, you won't understand that you don't deserve everything.
Right. I mean, that's the argument,
Yeah.
right? Um, I mean, we can get into that and trends and stuff like that, but I don't want to deviate too much from.
That's what the companies are going for, though, is that they'll see the difference between in the circumstance we were just talking about, my son and my friend's son, is that there's a difference. You can't get them with a simple commercial like that. You have to get them in a different way. Send a notification on the dad's phone that he'll hear, and almost every time we hit the notification, he's like, "Oh, I need to check what that is," rather than a commercial that makes this kid like freak out until he gets something. So
Well,
they're
that's
seeing the trends of what works and doing that for the majority to get as many people as
so
possible.
this is something crazy that I learned through this whole thing
Uh huh.
of just watching the whole thing. It really all just revolves around psychology,
Mm-hmm.
how people think, how people act, what triggers them, how do people react.
What triggers them in specific ways?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's everyone's triggered in a different way, and I don't
Mhm.
mean triggered as being triggered, but
Well,
also
like,
that too.
if you're sad, what are you gonna do when you're sad? Can I profit off that? Sure. Maybe I need tissues. Which
Mm-hmm.
tissue am I gonna buy?
Right.
Cottonelle or Target's brand?
Yep.
And that's what they talk about is they want to find out your emotion in the same sense as they want to find out what you like to buy when you're happy compared to when you're sad, and you searching through your Instagram on people you haven't talked to in a long time may mean you're sad.
Mm-hmm.
When you're searching things like birthday parties, you're probably happy. So let's do different advertisements that way. And so they just have to find how you think. Like we have a birthday coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this whole time we're talking. We should take something like something very simple, like 3 different colors on a piece of paper, and show it to everyone at the party and write down their response. And I can guarantee you we'll see a pattern of how many guys like certain colors, or majority of people will choose the same color.
Oh,
And that's
dude,
all it
that's
is.
well, people are predictable because we are creatures of habit.
But it's not as predictable until you record. You may think that I like something specific because I just like it, but maybe I only do it when I'm sad. So if you keep me happy, maybe I never do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the things that they look at, which is scary, and which I would care more about than just them knowing my location. Like, I don't care if someone knows I'm at home. I don't care if they know that I would go to the bathroom every 45 minutes. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy about this whole thing is the way they've been able to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I guess this is the time that this is what I wanted to talk to you about
Uh-huh.
last week. I don't think that our Android phones can do screen time, but I definitely want to
They can.
go. They can.
Mm-hmm.
Can you? Okay, so if you have an iPhone, take this time, the next 5 minutes, and go on to screen time, and so that you can see how much time you've spent on social media, how much time you've spent on your phone overall, how much time you've spent on certain apps, so that you can get an idea of what we're talking about. And then Greg and I are gonna do the same thing and share it with you guys now, so that
Oh, sorry. You meant like a tracker thing. I think we would have to download something specifically for that, or we'd have to look at it individual. I thought you meant FaceTime, like so we can call each other and see each other. That's what I thought you
no
were saying.
screen time.
Screen time. Okay. So I think we would have to download something specific, or we'd have to look individual apps will tell you.
So let's just look into the individual apps,
Mhm.
and we can start with Instagram. How do we go about that? So you just have to go to your page, your activity, and
I would just go. There is an app location under your settings, so apps and notifications. Like usually you swipe down from the top and you hit the cog. So like I have a thing that says recently opened apps, like when it was last open. So that can even give them a read of how often you look.
yeah,
So if you only look at it every 2 hours, but they want you to look at it every 30 minutes, maybe they set up a notification every 30 minutes, or maybe even every 20 minutes, so it gives you 10 minutes to respond.
yeah.
So that right there gives you something. But
So I guess Let's just go into the onto the activity for Instagram. Um, before the before I watched that movie, I think I was like doing like overall over. I don't know. I guess I wake up like at 7 in the morning. I usually go to bed like around 11:30, maybe 12
Mm-hmm.
on an average on a day. Um, so I was clocking in like an hour just on Instagram, just an hour. Just I don't know, going through memes, sending things to you back and forth through going back and forth with posts with you and friends. Um, and I've noticed that I really never posted anything until recently when we're starting to promote this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, from Saturday, on average, it's been 35 minutes on Saturday, 42 minutes on Sunday, 42 minutes Monday, and then after watching that documentary, I'm 29 minutes Tuesday, 30 minutes Wednesday, 29 minutes Thursday, and 16 minutes today.
Yeah. So like I'm looking at this right now. I'm just gonna compare it between the two, Facebook and Instagram. I don't really use Facebook. The only reason I go on there is because my mom posts things. Outside of that, I usually don't. Like I'll
So
look every once in a while. So I have 1 minute screen time today on Facebook, and I get 8 notifications from Facebook a day.
how did you? What is that? What are you
I just go
looking
to
at?
app info.
Oh, app info. So maybe that
So
would be.
so comparing that to Instagram, which I use much more, I get 7 notifications per day, and I spend 32 minutes. So I get one less notification, but I spend way more time on Instagram. And why is that? Because I go to that stupid page where you search through everything, and I just look at things to see what people are doing.
What do you mean?
I don't know what the name of it is. When you go on Instagram, you can hit that like magnifying glass
Mm-hmm.
where you would search for people, but then it just shows you like it shows you all like random people's things.
Oh, the search.
Yeah. So
So on the app itself, how much? If you go to your activity, how much on average are you clocking in on Instagram?
it says I've spent 32 minutes a day and I get 7 notifications. That
Not on your phone. I want to know from on Instagram itself.
yeah, that's Instagram.
It doesn't tell me about notifications.
I mean, we have different phones, so it may just give different.
No, on Instagram itself. Like if you go into Instagram,
Oh, it does that? I
yeah,
didn't know that.
you go to your activity. Daily average for me is 32 minutes.
Activity. Your activity. There we go. Daily average is 11 minutes.
11 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay. I see. Today was 32 minutes. Yesterday was 7 minutes. Wednesday was 9 minutes. Tuesday 18. 9 on Monday. 4 on Sunday. And I didn't even use it Saturday.
so that's pretty low actually. But I wonder how many people are over an hour. How many people are over 2 hours or over 3 hours? Like all these like keyboard warriors that we see commenting on everything. I wonder how much their screen time is,
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can do it on I don't really go on Facebook too much. Maybe Twitter. A little bit. I don't know how to look at it on Twitter. Settings.
That's one of the things too. So actually, right after I watched The Social Dilemma,
Uh-huh.
I noticed it on YouTube. You know how they give you the suggested videos, and it's usually about 8 videos at the very top,
Yeah.
and usually you just refresh the page to get new ones.
Uh-huh.
They removed one of the 8, and that 8th one is now an advertisement slot because they noticed that some people will go on there and they've seen everything from the people that they watch,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just waiting for a new thing to come up. That we don't need to have that 8th slot. They'll just keep refreshing till they see something. Here, we'll throw an advertisement in that spot. But see, like that, I don't know. I don't think I have ever really bought anything directly because of the advertisement itself. Like, it's usually like I'll search for a bike and then bikes will keep popping up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I never actually click those links. Like, to me, I think mentally, I think that those links are almost scammy.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's safe to do that. So maybe I'll click the link, but I would never buy from the link. Like, let's say I find a bike that I really like, I'll highlight the bike, get the name, get the stats, and then I'll go to a different place to buy it.
I think that you may be, one of the few.
Yeah.
I think a lot. I don't think that Facebook would take, or all these companies would take the time to develop such system if it was not effective.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying though. It's about the self control.
Right, but the
People
self
people don't
control.
worry about it. It's just like taking loans and stuff. Like people don't look at it like you're gonna pay back 40%. Are you kidding me right now? You're paying close to half of what you're trying to get out of that. That's insane. But people are just like, yeah, they're here, have like 15 credit cards. I'm like, what the heck do you need 15 credit cards for? You're
Well,
like,
self control is very complex because there's many different variables and things that affect you.
sure.
It could be something within the lines of instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are wired to react, to have like there's certain things that trigger the release of endorphins into the brain, and so that, which is the feeling that makes you happy or makes you
Mm-hmm.
good. And so if buying, I mean, there's different types of addiction, and we can get into that. But social media in itself has become a sort of addiction, and they've realized, the triggers. We go back to the triggers and what triggers people. Well, they figured out the psychology behind. They've done their homework. They've played it well. It's really hard to, as an average consumer who, you don't really understand what is, if you don't understand yourself, you don't understand your thinking, how are you gonna protect yourself from such things? Most of us, day to day, are living under our subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are on autopilot, right? How do you unplug from that? Something has to happen that has to wake you up. There has to be something that happens where it'll wake you up, like kind of like a knock on your head. Have you? I mean, I feel like I've gone through that a little bit, and I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm woke. I'm like, no, but I have had that feeling of waking up. Just one day, like 2 years ago, I just woke up one day and I was like, oh, like, wait a minute, this is life. I never thought about things this way. I started to be more aware of things. In fact, that's why I like marketing so much. It's for me, it's the suggestion, how you can suggest things, like, for instance, on the apps. So once I figured out how they trigger you to open the app by notifications,
Mm-hmm.
I started silencing all of them. It would be like, oh, like this person who you follow posted, and they haven't posted in a long time. And before, maybe I would have clicked on it. Now I just silence it. And then an hour later, this person just followed your page. And it might be like a bot, you know? Back then I would open it. Now, nope, silence. And so there's like so many, they've built so many like categories. Like, this person liked your picture. This person said this. This person said that. Here's so we suggest you friend this person. They've built many categories that if one doesn't work, one of them is gonna work. And so I got rid of all the notifications from my phone, from social media. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I really haven't seen the difference yet. I mean, obviously I've been on my phone less, which is good because I have more important things to do. But I still haven't seen the difference yet. And I'm thinking about maybe doing this is part 1 of the podcast of the social dilemma, and maybe we can do a part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kind of want to go back and rewatch the whole thing and take notes. There were so many things that I don't know if you want to just get into it right now, dude. So
Go ahead.
in in the movie, well, first of all, if you haven't watched the movie, turn this off and go watch it, because I think that it would be better for you to see and see exactly what we're talking about, because I feel like we're going all over the place. That's just our inexperience of knowing how to explain things in detail. Which is why I want to do a second podcast. Maybe we can have notes next time. So maybe today, and this what this podcast is about is just kind of getting people to watch that movie. I feel like everybody needs to watch it. And not you, Greg. Robert was telling me how he believes that this movie should be part of education, or it should be in the education system, of how to kind of like you know how sometimes we had like those movies or books that were like part of the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying that this should be part of that same curriculum in school, so that people who are growing up with it can learn about what is really happening. And maybe this is something that, by teaching kids that, and I'm sure that the corporations and the big conglomerates would not like that. However, I think it's because of the whole mental health and how it's affecting young children, and there's a rise in suicides in girls and young girls between like 11 to 14, and teenagers, and then even up to the 20s. This is something that maybe people, particularly parents, need to pay attention to, and maybe try to, yeah, I don't know, put this into like the school system.
Yeah, you could do that. I don't know how you would do it specifically, but
Well, kind of like, I mean, in history, there were times where we one time I watched Saving Private Ryan.
mm-hmm.
I watched Band of Brothers,
Mm-hmm.
like those types of movies, because we were obviously learning that subject that point in time, the war or whatever. But this might be a good idea to get into. Kind of just bring this into the school system so that kids understand what is happening when you're on social media and on your phone. It's not just social media; it's your phone. It's being on your phone. It's besides the service that we pay for to be able to access the internet, being able to access text messages and phone calls. There are things in your phone like location that alert people or companies around the area that you're nearby. And if you're playing like okay, for instance, I like to use Waze,
Mm-hmm.
and recently I think it was just acquired by Facebook. Well, Waze used to be the better alternative to Google Maps, because one, it was like the data that they were using to compile the traffic data was from people nearby. That was the location. But then once Facebook took over, it started to, let's say that you're driving around and you come to a stop at a stoplight. Well, there's an ad that pops up saying, you can get gas at this gas station.
Mm-hmm. Coupon,
or this is a here's a Carl's Jr., here's a McDonald's. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I mean, for convenience reasons, right? But I wonder, like, there must be something to that too. Like, what, I don't know if there's any negative aspects to it, but it's the same concept as what they're doing with when you're on the platform. And I don't necessarily, just to me, just I don't know, I think it's like, I guess it's more personal. It's unnecessary for me.
mm-hmm.
If I'm hungry, I'm just gonna go buy something, right? but then I don't think like everybody else. But maybe for convenience, you're like, oh, I'm driving to San Francisco and I don't know where the restaurants are, so here's a restaurant. So it's again, it's a double-edged sword.
The problems with it in that sense is that not everyone can afford the prices that all these companies are. So now, do I not get to be on that platform either? So now, how like it's unfair for this person. Like I'll put it in Google Maps, okay? So they have that like 3D tour of some places, where it's like you can get the 3D tour of this business so you can see inside of it,
Mm-hmm.
and they charge you for that. But then they also charge you. They allow you to do it once, so you can put your business on there, but you can only put information once. So let's say you're a restaurant, you put your menu on there. You put your price of your burger at $6 because that's the price of what it was.
Right.
But now 5 years down the line, your price is now $10. You then have to pay them to update the website or to update the prices.
Right.
And it's like an absurd amount that you're just like, no, I'm not going to pay that. But now they won't remove it either. So now it's hindering you. So now it's like what do you...
Yeah, you're gonna have to do it.
Now you're screwing me.
Yeah.
Completely. Either way. But then again, at the same time, you have to think it's going to cost them work to have to update your information. If you want to be on the platform, you're on the platform. If not, then you're not. So it's like,
yeah, I think
it's so useful that you need to do it, but it's so useful that some people can't afford to do it.
Right. Well,
so
dude, you know, I think that before we continue talking about this, I think that I would like to take the opportunity to just invite you to go watch that movie. Watch the movie, and then come back and listen to the podcast. And I think that for definitely we're gonna do a part 2, because today we only have an hour. But this conversation's not an hour. There's so many different things, and we can get a little conspiratorial on this on the next podcast, because there's something that I noticed that aligns with things that you would deem evil.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really want to get into, you know, in detail in those topics. Unfortunately, today we didn't have all the time because of scheduling purposes. But so for today, you know, maybe it was just a good idea to do this podcast so that we can get the point across that I think everybody needs to watch this movie. You know, watch the movie, come back, you know, join the community, give us your thoughts, give us your, you know, whatever comments you have. What if you've learned something that maybe we didn't catch? It would be great to get that kind of feedback.
I'll rewatch it and from start to beginning and make notes so that it can be in order of what they were talking about and keep it going.
I think we have to.
Yeah.
Because they've mentioned so many different aspects, not just tracking your location, not just finding the triggers, the psychology, how people respond. There's a lot of different things that we're not going to have time to cover today.
And there's things you don't think about when said. Like, I'll give an example. I was talking this morning about the sun. You say the sun and you're like, oh, it's this burning thing of gas in space. Huge thing. Then I thought about it. I was like, don't you need oxygen to have fire? And I was like, wait, is there oxygen on the sun?
Well,
and I was like, wait a second, hold on. And then I was like, maybe there's chemical reaction fires that don't require oxygen because it burns out.
I think there's 2 different types of reactions. It's the fusion and then the diffusion.
I don't know, but it made me think. I was like, I've never really thought about, is there oxygen by the sun because there's fire? Like,
well, Greg, there's so many different things that we know of, but we don't understand. And that's what you learned today.
Because we don't break it down necessarily. We say it, we make an opinion, and we move on.
Exactly. And dude, and you know, going back to this whole social dilemma, everybody has a phone. It's not like you don't really think of it as a threat, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a phone. What? I'm talking to my friends, sending memes back and forth. No, it's no big deal. But it's until you realize and you understand what is happening, then you feel like it's actually doing um, both a service and a disservice. You know, so I definitely want to get into it in part two.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the part two can be like maybe 2.5 hours long, because there's a lot of stuff I want to get into, Greg. There's a lot of different things that I don't want to say satanic, but there's a lot of different things that on there that are like evil.
Yeah.
And I think just by mentioning that, I think that maybe you kind of got the gist of it. So for today, I think that's it, guys. I think if you guys are interested, watch the movie. I put it up on our social media. It's on Netflix. I'm sure most people have Netflix accounts now. If not, reach out. Maybe I'll share my password with you. um, I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
Right. So we're gonna cut it short, guys. Greg, you want to give the uh, the usual spiel while I get my place on the excerpts of the Buddha?
The usual spiel. Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead and well, did I go mute? No. Check us out on. Well, I mean, we're on YouTube. We're on all the other platforms, Spotify. Uh, there's so many podcast platforms out there. We're pretty much on everything you can think about. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook,
Twitter.
Twitter. We usually post on Instagram
And Twitter.
the most.
And Twitter.
It comes on Twitter too.
Mhm.
Instagram would be the best place for all the information though.
Right.
Well,
for the time being.
We usually post 10, 15 minutes before we're gonna go live, and
Well, I want to.
What?
Well, it's kind of weird saying, "Hey, there's a social dilemma," but follow us on Instagram.
No, because it's all about control, is what we talked about. Because how else are you gonna get the information?
Well, I mean, we have a website,
Yeah.
so maybe we can do something on the website, like set like a blog or community chat or something like that. Anyway,
The website is
it's tppisloading.com. It's actually Google websites /tppisloading.com.
yeah. And if there's any people who want to sponsor the podcast, you can hit us up on the website or email us. Social media accounts are on there. Just send us information. We'll get back to you right away.
That's right.
We appreciate it.
All right, guys. So to end the podcast today, we just have a little excerpt of Heart of the Buddha that goes like this: avoid all evil, embrace all goodness, purify one's own mind. And with that, thank you guys for joining us today. We'll see you guys next week in part 2. You have anything else you want to add, Greg?
No, we're looking good. See you then.
Dude.
Don't click any ads.